Would I be wrong if I gave my dentist a written statement to help defend him against my friend who was trying to sue him? I, 55 female, have a friend Jean of similar age. She's not what I'd call a close friend, but I've known her for a long time. She's the type of person who always thinks she's right and won't back down easily from anything. A few months ago, she had a toothache and asked me which dentist I used. My dentist is so amazing, so I recommended him. She has a dental phobia and asked me to go with her to her appointment. He was lovely to her, spent a long time talking to her, explaining everything, put her at ease. She had a big abscess under one of her back teeth. He said it either needed a root canal and a crown or extracting. The root canal/crown would be best part of $1,000 total, and he was really clear to her that it was a big abscess and there was no guarantee the root canal would work. He actually said the odds were 50-50 and it might be better to extract the tooth and put the money towards an implant or a bridge instead. He said he could offer no form of guarantee or refund if problems happened. He was clear in what he said, and I know she heard him and understood that the odds weren't great. She decided to go ahead with the treatment. I went with her to one of her further appointments, but not all of them. Fast forward a few months. Everything was okay initially after the root canal and crown, but then she got another infection. She had antibiotics, but the problem persisted and she ended up having the tooth removed. She is livid. You think he was the worst person in the world from what she says about him. She wants to sue him and has been to a lawyer to get advice. She is claiming that she wasn't properly warned and that treatment may not work. Apparently, the lawyer is confident she'll get a payout. He's told her that it'll be hard for him to prove he properly warned her and that dentists are insured for this stuff. They think his insurance will pay out because it won't be worth their time to try and defend it. I'm really annoyed at her for this because I know she is lying about not being warned. I really like the dentist and feel awful for him that he faces legal action for this, and that I was the one who introduced her to him. I worry that it will reflect badly on me in his eyes when I see him in the future. I have argued with her about it because I witnessed him warning her, but she says it's none of my business. Her view is it doesn't hurt him because he'll have insurance. Like I said, she doesn't back down from things. I feel so strongly about this that I want to send a written statement to the dentist that he can use back against her. I would state that I witnessed the appointment when he warned her and that she clearly heard and understood what he said. I know that doing so, I would probably lose her as a friend, but to be honest, I don't care about that at this point. My husband thinks I should do it. He's never liked Jean. He describes her as a nightmare and thinks I'm best off without her as a friend.
That's a good idea.
I signed my ex-boyfriend up for the Church of Scientology. I saw that this was a funny trend to sign people up for random email lists and spam them, but I decided to take it a step further because he really burnt me in the past. I went to our local Church of Scientology's website and saw where you could input your personal information to receive messages from the church. Since I had most of this information from our time being together, I filled it out under his name. I did this with a few more churches of Scientology as well. I thought that this would only be a minor inconvenience with a few puzzling and harmless emails, but it turned out to be much worse. Recently, I saw that he posted on his Instagram that he was deleting all of his social media due to privacy reasons.
Whoa.
At first, I didn't think much of it, but after a while, I started to wonder if there was any connection to what I had put in the Church of Scientology's website.
Oh,
So,
yikes.
out of
Probably.
curiosity, I later decided to bite the bullet and DM him on Instagram in the hopes that he hadn't deactivated his account. A few minutes later, he responded, saying he needed a break from social media. Ultimately, he told me not to worry about it and that he was going to delete his Instagram, 10K followers, later that night. I figured I was off the hook. A few weeks later, I was with a mutual friend of ours, and she updated me on his situation. Apparently, him and his family had been contacted by the Church of Scientology.
Oh, no.
Supposedly, they actually expressed interest.
Oh, that's their fault.
The mutual friend said that she hadn't seen him in a while and none of his friends had heard from him in over a month.
Oh, no.
She said that it seemed like he was cutting off everybody.
Oh.
I just received word that he's dropping out of school after the semester ends and his family is moving to live with other church members.
Scientology is really, this is what they do. This is all that they do. They are very, very good at recruiting people. They just are. Wow.
I just got full body chills. I know I technically signed him up for this, but I had no idea it would get this bad. He honestly deserved it after everything he did. Like, still no remorse, doubling down.
I mean, they were the ones who, like, she just signed him up. She didn't, like, drag him
She
there.
opened the door to Hades and he just fell right down.
Yeah.
I can't exactly
my.
state what he did and caution this post would get removed. Just know it was pretty fucked up and me and a friend of mine had to see a therapist.
And now that he's in the church, he can't get to anybody. So,
Fair.
So it's kind of a type of prison if you think about it.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's also a type of blanket freedom because the church, and not just Scientology, but like a lot of sort of fundamentalist religions and scare quotes will just like blanket forgive you. They'll justify what you did and they'll allow you to live with yourself.
Am I in the wrong for kidnapping my baby, causing my husband to have a panic attack? I, 29 female, recently started working again after having my daughter, who's 4 months old now. Daycare is too expensive, so my husband, 35 male, reluctantly agreed to stay home. It's important to know that he's been unemployed since 2021. He receives benefits. It's also important to know that he's extremely lazy. He doesn't cook, clean, or help out in any way. I was nervous about leaving her home with her father, but I had no choice. When I came back from work, she was clean and sleeping. The next few times I came home, he was either playing with her, feeding her, or out for a walk with her. I was happy. A few days ago, my neighbor told me that as soon as I leave, the baby cries and she cries for hours. My neighbor said that she knocked on our door and he finally answered it. He was sleeping. I concluded that he sleeps all day and night. Before I come home, he pretends to take care of her. I decided to take the day off work. I left home at my regular time, waited 30 minutes and then went home. Sure enough, he was knocked out of sleep with his stupid noise-canceling headphones on. I went to my daughter's room, scooped her up and took her to my friend's house. I waited about 2 hours and I finally called him to tell him that I was coming home early. He called me back saying that he can't find the baby. He told me that he was going to call the police, but before he did, I told him what I did. He called me an a-hole and a lot of other words too. When I got home, his mother was there calming his nerves because he was having a panic attack. She also called me an a-hole. My husband decided to sleep at our house. Family members are telling me that I'm a terrible person. I know it was extreme, but I don't know if I would consider myself an a-hole. So, am I in the wrong here?
This Reddit title reads, I am leaving my husband because of my mother-in-law. I have been married to my husband for 5 years. Of those 5 years, I spent the last 3 years taking care of his mother. His mother is very sick. She can hardly go to the bathroom on her own. I have to wash her and clean her. He never discussed it with me. He just moved his mother into our house without asking me. I suggested that we should hire a nurse and he said it was a waste of money. Why do we need to hire a nurse when we can take care of her? My husband promised he would help, but he hasn't lifted a finger. I do everything. I feed his mum, I bathe her, I clean her after she does her business. I'm exhausted and I feel like a lesser version of myself. I don't recognize myself in the mirror anymore. I always clock on for her and my husband doesn't help me, but he expects me to help his mother. He just comes home and plays video games.
The plague of video games on our society.
I know, it's so like typical. It's so typical. I complained about this and he yelled at me. He said he is very stressed about his mother and he needs video games to calm his nerves. I know I just gave shit to video games, but like I get as a sidebar that maybe they can be helpful for some people, but like, okay, whatever. The only time I saw him do anything was his mum's birthday. We were about to start a family last year, but he said not now and has the audacity to complain that I do not look myself anymore. Oh. So he says I've eye bags, my skin looks dry, my hands start to resemble his own mother.
Ew.
I'm
what?
just done now. I sacrificed my job for him. I left my job and took a part-time job just to take care of his mum. I should have left when 4 years ago I asked him to lend me some money for my dad's operation and he gave me a bunch of excuses. So there's a massive double standard going on here. He even criticized me if I spend too much time with my own sick dad. Today at work, he is going to be served. I have been planning my escape for a few months. I'm staying with a close relative. I have money saved. I'm glad I didn't have kids with this man.
God.
A whirlwind.
Unfortunately, I feel like that is a bit of a common story.
Yeah.
A lot of women take on this role of carer, and because we don't value carers in society very highly, you end up feeling really, really burnt out.
It's totally unfair. My thoughts are with this person. Like, I'm glad that at the end she's kind of like, I'm done.
Yeah, she's like, he's being served.
Yeah, which I don't think is always the case. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes people are so in it and drowning in it that they can't see that it's not right and that she's being taken advantage of.
Am I wrong for telling my wife to stop being a pushover, or I would take all her spending privileges? So my wife, 25 of 5 years, has a sister, 20. She's somewhat disabled and has a condition that makes working difficult but not impossible unless she's under a lot of stress. It's a neurological condition that causes her to lose muscle control, makes her hit and throw stuff or fall over. Now, I have no issue with her sister. I think she's sweet and nice to have around, and more than anything, my wife loves her. She basically raised her and stepped in when her parents wouldn't or couldn't, and this caused a relationship closer to mother-daughter. My wife would constantly be paying for her stuff, and this made sense to me when she was a minor and was doing worse health-wise. Recently, though, it's been increasingly getting under my skin. I'm the sole provider for my household right now since my wife was pregnant and only gave birth recently. We'd spend a lot of money to buy her sister's gifts for holidays, which she never returned the favor, even with something cheap with thought or no thought put into them.